Welcome to Building Something Admirable, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of how to start a healthcare-related business. I'll share each step that we took to establish our now thriving practice at Meyer Medical, including our highs and lows, insider advice, and real-life lessons in every episode. Good afternoon, budding medical entrepreneurs. This is Alex. I think today we should talk about selecting an EMR. When I was starting the practice, this was something I hemmed and hawed over and got opinions about and got 20 different perspectives, and they were all different, of course. So I'll let you know what my experience was, and right now we're actually correcting a poor choice that I'd made when I went against my gut instinct on this one. So let's get into it. As of right now, there's probably like anywhere between 6 and 12 major players in the EMR space. You know, you got your Cerner Power Chart family, you got your Epics, you got Advanced MD, you got Cario, there's Athena, there's yada yada yada, there's Praxis. So we went through all the different review sites to try and figure this out, and basically every site we went to had a different rating for each EMR, and it also depends on what you're trying to do with this thing. So naturally we wanted an all-in-one system. We wanted something that we could use to, you know, do our patient management, you know, outreach kind of stuff. We wanted something that would be good for easy HIPAA compliant communication with telemed. We wanted something that was going to be obviously easy for charting and all that stuff. And eventually we're kind of getting the idea that at least a year ago there was no great one solution for all those things. We ended up you know, kind of mixing and matching, trying to find, well, how few systems can we use to get the best combination product and maybe find one that works together well. So we settled on the office management software first and went with OpenPM for that one. And Praxis EMR kept coming up for a lot of their marketing as the, you know, most physician-friendly, cut down your documentation time, all that stuff, best EMR for all those things. The idea is, per their sales pitch, that, you know, no longer you use templates or dot phrases, because everything, you know, you start putting your exam in, then it anticipates your whole note, and then you just change a few things and bada bing, bada boom. So we went with that one. And I would again like to caveat that this is just our personal experience. Maybe we had some bad luck, maybe it's not a good fit for our practice style, maybe whatever the situation was, but it's been a freaking miserable process the entire time. And it's gotten to the point now where we hired scribes to help streamline this process, because I spend more time documenting than I really should be, especially given how allegedly, per all their marketing, this system is the most efficient one out there, and it's been nothing but a headache. And initially it sounded like they had some modules for us to do or whatever it might be, whereas and at that time I was just extremely busy getting everything set up, plus I was studying for my boards, and it was not the good time for me to sit down and try and crank out some modules. So I just said, we're just going to jump in and do it, and they said that that'd be fine. And I limped through it for a little while and just muscled through a couple of poorly written notes, and I was like, you know, when we can get to it, we'll get to it. But there were a couple things already at that point that were starting to just potential red flags, yellow flags, where communication was a little off, or I was hearing, you know, I was talking to one guy, and he was a sales guy, and he was kind of both pushy but also tough to read at the same time in terms of response times. Then when you know, this is the biggest red flag, and I'm still bitter about this, by the way. They don't actually work with you directly. They have a deal with Canon Financial Services that you have to purchase the license agreement. You can't do a sort of, you know, in-house monthly plan. you have to purchase the license for, I forget how many, like 10 grand or something. And you finance the purchase of the license and then pay it off like anything else. Well, I mean, that's weird. Why the heck can't you just do a monthly plan or something like that through the company and all these things? I'm like, well, whatever. Maybe it's a relatively small company, startup. They can't deal with the slow trickle of revenue from this. I don't know. So I let it go. I ignored it. And then continued to have some of these issues with documentation and etc. And reached out to one person who has to make all of your logins. You can't self-administer this kind of thing for EMR logins. Also kind of weird. Why can't I, as the administrator of our Praxis practice, that works, Praxis practice, why can't I create the login for the rest of my staff and for scribes that we now had to hire and everything? Well, whatever, okay, fine. Maybe this is a thing they do for HIPAA compliance or whatever. But they're not very quick about it. And then they give weird privileges to other people in the office. My guess is because they want to force us to pay for additional licenses for additional users, even though they're simply helping me do my job because their system is inefficient already. There, that annoyed me too. Okay, well, so then I'm limping through these notes, doing the best that I can to try and just get things in on time so we can get paid, and eventually get frustrated enough that I want to set up some training with our training guy. And I'm not going to torch someone publicly, so I'll just say, I think everyone's assigned some training person. Basically, it always seemed like we were burdening him, even though I had to freaking license this thing for however many figures it was, and we paid for the service already and all that nonsense. And on the first quote-unquote training, it was more of a troubleshooting kind of appointment, where in the half-an-hour slot for the first 15 minutes is kind of questions where it sounded like he was burdened by our questions. And so we logged in, and at that point I was having trouble just setting a stinking prescription to the pharmacy. And so I logged in, I'm like, hey man, I just need some help getting this stuff sorted out. It's taking me forever to write notes, and do you have any modules I can do so I can teach myself this stuff? He's like, well, what problem do you have? I was like, well, right now my problem is I can't send prescriptions. He walked me through that. He's like, all right, what other problems do you have? I'm like, I just don't know what I don't know. I need help just learning how to do this efficiently. And it always came back to kind of like, what problem do you have currently? And never really seemed to help us do this independently and get satisfied with it. I thought maybe he was having a bad day. But anytime the rest of my staff were going to get trained for their purposes, or our nurse practitioner Angela, when she was trying to get her stuff worked out, it's kind of the same thing. It always seemed like we had to book this appointment for him, and even though we set aside however many half hour or something, we always kind of rushed through a quick problem focused assistance here, and then just kind of rushed through it all and never really got the bigger picture shown to us. So giving him the benefit of the doubt, I'm guessing maybe this is just they have him tackling so many different accounts at once, and he's overlapping appointments, and that's why there's always this rushed, hectic feeling or what have you. But really it's unreasonable. And now we're months later, and I've been seeing patients in the office since like October or November or something, and we're in May, and I still have a pile of notes sitting in my inbox that I'm just dreading having to go into and iron out and submit just to get paid. So instead of being fast, now I have these notes stacked up for like 2 weeks at a time because it's cumbersome, and logging in is a freaking nightmare. All kinds of clumsy clunkiness that just make it a bad experience. And I'm at the point now where we are just digging through our contract to figure out how the heck we can get out of this stupid thing, because it has been nothing but a bad time and is now actually costing us substantially more because we've had to hire scribes, because we're wasting time, we're not getting reimbursed on time, because we're not getting notes in on time, because everything takes so stinking long. You can't even directly dictate into the software unless you have a separate account with, you know, Dragon or whomever, whereas other EMRs that we're looking at least one of them does have their own dictation software, and can't imagine it has to be perfect. And you know, this is 2024. AI is able to help us out with all this stuff. Even so, prescriptions still aren't going to the pharmacies when I send them this many months later, where now I know how to do it correctly, but I've had several times where the pharmacy's like, we got this order and it doesn't have the right quantity in it because of the way that it makes you select the quantity on, it doesn't pre-populate correctly, and nothing is simple. And it very well could just be that we didn't get trained adequately, and this would be a wonderful service, but you know, when I've tried to be proactive on the back end to get a little better training, it has not been easily accessible. And so I'm kind of at the point now where I'm done trying to conform to this. We're just gonna find one piece of software that does it all. So if we end up leaving Praxis and OpenPM, that's a shame, because OpenPM was wonderful, and you know, they did weekly trainings that were just on the books automatically, and we would log in, and Caitlin was amazing, would walk us through whatever issues we had, and then was even working with our biller to help her out with her training process to get used to the software. Like, that's the way they should be doing it. Meanwhile, despite having some negative feedback, the original sales guy still had the cojones to reach out to me out of nowhere and say, you know, hey, Dr. Watson, we really appreciate your reviews. Can you give us a review, and we strive for a 10 out of 10 experience or something like that? And I just flat out wrote back like, you don't want me filling out a review right now. I am not happy with the service, and I am astonished that you have as many good reviews as you put out there. So I don't know if this is good marketing or review buying, or again, I'm an idiot and everyone else loves this thing, but this has not been my experience. So I had enough kind of, again, yellow flags going into this. That was like, I don't know, man. I got a bad vibe here, but I deferred to the wisdom of the masses and said, if all these other reviews are as positive as they are, it must be me. Well, this far into it, and I'm still struggling here. I don't care if it's me. You didn't help fix our situation after multiple reports of issues with this and complaints. So that is why we are switching EMRs. You know, of course, Epic and Cerner are the ones that I'm most familiar with, but for a startup practice, they're not that cost effective. But even when you're shopping for this crap, very few of them put their prices online, and that is just drives me crazy. If anyone has any recommendations for an EMR that they really love, that's very affordable and friendly to a new practice, that has many similar patient populations and presenting concerns, that only needs a couple dot phrases, please let me know in the comments below. If you've had a better experience with Praxis and want to stand up for them, by all means, let's talk it out in the comments below, because I could very well be wrong and maybe make a huge mistake. But either way, I know the experience that we've had, and it's been very, very unpleasant. Alrighty, thanks for listening. Best of luck. Please like and subscribe if you found this helpful. Take care. Stay tuned for more insider advice on building something admirable. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe below.